And our first order tonight of business is we have a presentation. The town assessor, Donna Camore, is here, and she will be talking to us regarding the local option to adjust income limits for certain expenses. I believe we all have the handout that she sent, looking at the two exemptions. And at this time, I will turn it over to you, Donna.
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to answer any questions that you might have. There are many exemptions that are mandated by New York State, and then there are some that are of local option, and you have the opportunity to set some limits that would be appropriate for your particular residence. It's not the same level mandated across the state. So I'm here tonight to explain to you two different programs for which the state has now given a new opportunity for you to raise the income limits. They're income related. So those two programs are Limited Income Senior Citizen Exemption, which is not the STAR program. This is the original senior exemption, and the Disabled Persons with Limited Income. I wanted to start with just a short summary of what those two programs are for anyone that's viewing or listening in here tonight that doesn't know what the programs are. So briefly, as you follow through my slides, you'll see here are the highlights. The 467 is the Limited Income Senior Citizen Program. It's the original senior exemption, and it is applicable to the primary residence only. After that, it is based on age and it's based on income. The age has to be 65 years or over by December 31st of the year that we would be taking the applications. The applications are due earlier in the year, so I always encourage people not to wait until their 65th birthday, but come in and apply the year that they'll be turning 65. If the owners are married or are siblings, as defined in the law, then only one must be age eligible. Otherwise, all the owners must meet that income or that age limit. And then the income is based on a various sliding scale, which we're going to get into in depth in a little bit. On the next slide, you'll see the highlights for the 459C program, which is Disabled Persons with Limited Income. It's similar in the sense that it is applicable to their primary residence only, but instead of being based on age, it is based on documented physical or mental disability, which would affect one or more of the major life activities for the applicant. Each property owner must qualify, and if the owners are married or siblings as defined in the law, then one of them must be eligible. Otherwise, all the owners must qualify. And it's also based on income. We would know that they're disabled because they will be receiving Social Security disability insurance or other types of disability pensions. And there are various levels. On the next slide, you'll see the other ways that these two programs are similar is that for both of the programs, the applications are renewable annually and they are processed manually by our staff. We are looking at their continuation of their qualification. Obviously, no one will get younger, but you might get better. And your income is always subject to change. So every year we are looking at this program. So depending on the incomes that are set forth by each taxing jurisdiction, the application for the school, the town, the county, and the village taxes are looked at independently on that one application through our office, and those limits are subject to change. And that's why we're here today. So I wanted to give you some statistics to help you in your decision, because my job is just to make you aware of that, to answer any questions you have about the program, but you have to make the difficult decision of deciding where to set that income limitation and how that fits your community best. So on the next slide, you will see that there are the current statistics for the village of Webster. So this is outside the town, strictly inside the village. We have 42 approved applications for village benefits for the Limited Income Senior Citizen Exemption out of 624 that we have taken in the roll year for 2022. It amounts to $1,735,810 aggregate assessment dollars that are being exempted, or those are exemption is where the taxpayer is not paying that amount. That amounts to about $3,784 in tax savings on the village tax line. Or another way to say that is $3,784 of village taxes paid by your other taxpayers. because exemptions are a discount to the individual property owner, not a discount to the taxing jurisdiction. It's a zero-sum game. You won't lose any money, but you'll be shifting the money not collected by one group of people to the other group of people. Does that make sense? Okay. For the disabled persons with limited income, you have 2 approved applications within your village limits. That's $90,530 of aggregate assessment that is being exempted, about $197 worth of taxes. So that's the background on the programs and where you stand. Your opportunity and objective is to set that income limit of the 50% mark. You can set it between $3,000, which is the state minimum, or the new state maximum of $50,000. Then there's a sliding scale that goes up from there and in incremental fashion by 5% changes. So the 50% is obviously the best benefit, but for people who are a little over that 50% mark that you set, they may get 45% benefit. And so on up to 5% benefit until people just don't qualify. The village board is the authority to decide the appropriate level. Your task is to define what is limited income for your community. You have 3 options available to you. You can do nothing, which means that the income sliding scale that you have decided on in the past, maybe not this board, but as the board, would remain. You can lower it, or you could raise it. Okay? Some of those choices are obviously better than others. So some statistics about your community. On the next slide, you'll see the Census Bureau estimates as of July 1st, 2021, which I gathered for your review. Your population is 4,758. 18.7% of them are over 65. 11.5% of your residents are disabled under the age of 65. 40.1% of any age, you have owner-occupied housing. So keep in mind that these applications are only for owner-occupied seniors and owner-occupied disabled. So they're not available to the renters. Your median household, your households are 2,915 according to the Census Bureau, and your median household income, which does include ages 15 and up. They did include teenagers with their first job, so this might be slightly understated. I can't tell you by how much. I just saw a footnote on that and I thought it noteworthy. Your median household income is $56,212. Your per capita income is $33,458, and your poverty level is 12.6. This does not reflect homeowners. It reflects all of your residents because the Census Bureau was counting residents in your jurisdiction. Any questions so far? Okay. The next scale is an example of a sliding scale. The existing versus the new maximum option. On the left side is the town and the village. Our income limits do match right now. This is our sliding scale, which was adopted in 2010. Currently, if someone is receiving $26,000 or less in income as defined by the New York State Real Property Tax Law, not defined by the IRS and on their income tax return. Not everyone files an income tax return. We use the New York State Real Property Tax Law definition of income, so we reconstruct all of those. That's why I say we process these applications manually. $26,000 or less, a person will receive a 50% benefit, a 50% discount on their tax bill. All the way up through, and you can see how it gradually changes. 5%, the upper limit, is $34,400. If someone is making $34,400 or more, they would not qualify for these benefits as a senior citizen or as a disabled limited income person. You can see on the right-hand side then how that compares to the new state maximum. And I would just call your attention then to the fact that the current state maximum before this new option came into play is $29,000. So you were not yet at the state maximum. Potential reasons for the increase is that it has been 13 years since the state has given the opportunity for any jurisdiction to increase their income limits for these 2 programs. and that inflation, certainly as we all know in our own shopping adventures, we're finding that it's hitting our pockets. But I would suggest to you, while it's a good idea to review these income limits from time to time, and $50,000 is being offered, you have to decide what's best for your whole community. Everyone is being affected by inflation. So I've given you some information that you can look at when you're trying to make the decision. I'm available for any questions that you might have about the programs. I can't give you legal advice, but I do know that you do need to hold public hearings. Any questions on the sliding scale before we move on? A change in the income level will definitely increase the number of new applicants, including the residents that already receive benefits. They will be receiving more benefits. They will raise the benefits for all the existing applicants. I cannot predict the taxable value changes or that shift that we talked about, that would shift from one set of your community members to the other. And it will not affect any existing applications. Excuse me. You will need to make a decision before March 1, but I strongly encourage you to make a decision as soon as you are able, because we cannot process any applications. We will certainly try to take them and give our best advice, but at this point, our office cannot advise our constituents as to what the income limit maximum is. So we will just be taking any and all applications, which means some applicants are wasting their time, and so are we in processing them if we can't properly advise them before it comes in. If you wait till March 1st, that's also the deadline to take the applications, and then basically what you're asking us to do is hold up all of our work to the end. And since we could potentially see a doubling or tripling of our applications, we're not staffed for that. And so I'm here as early as this came out to encourage you to make an early decision, but I'm not here to rush you. Because they are separate and distinct New York State real property tax laws, you will need to do a separate and distinct local law and a public hearing to change the local law. You already have those local laws, and you can't have one public hearing or one resolution that would change both at the same time. I've also prepared for you, since I did my presentation to the town board, this one thing is different, and I'll be taking this back to them. I've already given this to the supervisor, but the separate handout, which has the chart on it that looks like this, is I had some advice from a person with some banking background, which was very helpful, and found the information through his advice that the cost of living increase that has been issued by the federal government for Social Security, which is generally the main source of income for many of the people in our applications, and what the cost of living has been each of those years. I turned it into a compound interest multiplier factor, and when you read the chart, what I hope that you will notice is that in 2010, when you last decided we had the opportunity to decide what the income limit should be, $1 was $1. And now, when you come up to 2021, you need $1.25 to still have the same buying power as that dollar. Another way to say it is there's been a 25% increase in the cost of living that's been issued to these applicants. That helps to explain why each year we see fewer and fewer people in the program, because the people that are at the upper end of the program are being eliminated from the program as their Social Security has increased. So down, I've made two boxes. You can see that the village limit of 50% exemption, because that's the number you set, and all the other pieces fall in place after that by statute. You currently have 26,000, which was established in 2010. And if you apply an inflation rate to that, for example, for your consideration, if you just wanted to move that by 25%, you would move that up to somewhere around 32,400. That would put the top end of your exemption at 42,886. The math would just come into play. You decided that 50% number would be, I just applied real math to this without rounding. Compare that to the state's prior maximum of 29,000. The top end was 37,400. And if you apply a 25% inflation rate to that, it would be 36,100 up to 46,600. Compare both of those to the new state maximum that's before you today of $50,000 to $58,400. There are working families who would fall in any of these categories, but they're not 65 and I can't approve their application. So that is my study of the inflation rate, and that is my brief presentation of two very complicated exemptions. I hope it was enough for you to understand a little bit about how important the programs are to some of your constituents and what is before the decision that's before you today. Can I answer any questions for you?
The change in terms of the income and the inflation applied to the old and what it brings up to the new. For example, the 26,032 and for this village 34.4 going to 42. My question, that is just for the rate of inflation, correct?
Correct. So I took the study that I did saying that there's approximately a 25% rate of inflation from the last time you visited, and I applied it to the current scale just to say, well, where would you be if you just wanted to keep pace with inflation? That may be the best decision, it may not be the best decision. You have a lot on your plate to decide that. I also took the liberty of taking that 42,000 number and dividing it by a 40-hour work week. If someone is working 40 hours a week as a family person, the $42,800 translates to roughly $19.60 an hour. It's a generous wage.
So looking at this, the state has just increased it above their maximums, just above the rate of inflation. So instead of the 46, they've gone to 50, correct?
Instead of 36, they've gone to 50, yes. So their previous is in the blue.
Okay.
Yeah, the previous state maximum is in the blue, and that would be 36,100 as a rate of inflation against the 29 that was. So you'd be looking at the 36 would be a catch-up for inflation. They've gone just beyond that. And I might add, too, that the 50,000 limit that you're seeing now for upstate has already been in place for downstate, because downstate has a whole different economy. And so, you know, their poverty level is very different. They're saying jobs there, they're saying houses are much more expensive. So what they're doing by changing this law, the way that they have changed it is now taking the two income limits and combining it. The rest of the state just caught up with the limit that has been in effect for the downstate area, New York City.
Mm-hmm.
We might not be in New York City. I can't tell you if 50,000 is correct for New York City. I didn't do that study, you know. But what I wanted to do was to give you some points of reference so that you were making a decision based on facts.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody have any questions?
Yes. Jake does.
A couple. The income limits, are those individual or household?
Household to the applicants.
Okay.
That gets a little tricky. Sometimes there's extra people in the house.
Yeah, and so it's just the applicants, just the people that are over 65. If there are 4 people and 2 who are over 65, their household, their income would be combined to be that limit.
Well, this is the part where I said I oversimplified complicated exemptions. So I can answer that question, but I think we'll go in the weeds really quickly. So if you have a married couple that are senior citizens, they are the applicant as long as they are also the owners.
Okay.
I can give you a couple different scenarios. if mom and dad and son and daughter-in-law all own the house, all owners may not be 65, so the household may not qualify at all. But that they set up their deed so that mom and dad own it, and in a temporary way, son and daughter-in-law are living with mom and dad, okay? Then they have to show us that's a temporary situation, and we will be asking about the contributions to the household, which becomes income then to mom and dad. Like I said, it's not the law that goes out for your income taxes. Okay? It is truly a program in a very old-fashioned sense. This income definition hasn't changed in many years. Our ways and means that have become available to us to save for our retirement has dramatically changed since this program was first instituted in 1966. So it is truly based on need. If you think of the original social helpful programs as we're neighbors helping neighbors through our government programs, this is that program. We ask a lot of questions and we look at a lot of different resources. So they would want to make sure that their deed is structured properly, and we would be asking a lot of questions about the contributions for the son and daughter-in-law in that home, but not looking at the income of the son and daughter-in-law. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Unless they're all 65 and they all own it, that's a different story.
I think you've already answered the other question I had. I know as part of the estate plan, a lot of times people will put their home in trust, and the trust doesn't have income probably, but the owners, and that's probably got to get a little crazy trying to figure that out as well. So.
And yes, in that case, the property may very well still qualify. It depends on how their trust is written. Because then the persons who benefit from the real estate that is held by that trust is what we're looking at. They would be the applicant.
And are there any other, I know, I'm asking the board, if the board has any other questions. Rick?
As town and village taxpayers, where do we fall? In village only, or town and village?
I am giving a presentation to the village board because the village needs to make a decision on what their income limit would be, which would affect their tax rate because of that shift. So you, as a town and village resident, you're also a county resident, and you also live in a school district. So that one application would be looked at 4 ways in our office to make a determination based on all 4 of those jurisdictions' income limits.
Okay, thank you.
We're never bored, and we love what we do.
Any other questions? No? Donna, I thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I know you have a lot on your plate to think through, and if you have any questions, you know where to reach me. I'll be very happy to help you through it as best I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. So you have some food for thought. And if we desire to make any changes, we will need to set up
Get it on the workshop.
a workshop. And we'll have to go from there in terms of public hearing.
I'll just hear what Marcia says.
Yeah. We get to talk to Marcia. Marcia, Don.
Yep.
Schedule a workshop.
But yeah, let's get it on the next one because they don't want to sit on it.
No.
Heather, take note of that. For the next workshop, we'll put that on the agenda for discussion. And we'll pass this along to Don and also have a discussion with Marcia prior. Okay?
Yep.
Donna, before you go, I guess I would have one question. If we were to make a change regarding that base level, okay, or the scale. Would we have access through your office as to, or you wouldn't know this possibly, what the additional numbers would be?
I wouldn't know, because by raising the income scale, you would be opening up to people for whom I don't have an application yet. So I couldn't study that, right? And I forget the number that I just read to you, but you know, the number of applicants that you have are all over that scale. So I would have to go through and pull them out and look at it as if it had changed. It'd be quite a process, but you could kind of assume a certain amount about the existing applications. If you move it by 10%, we could make a 10% shift in that amount, right? Yeah. But you can't count the people that would be coming into the program, which is really, you know, the ones you would be trying to reach.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.